Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is episode 128 of the Audible Farm podcast, and this episode is brought to you by Couchtown Coffee. Couchtown Coffee is my favorite coffee, and I'm not just saying that because they're one of the sponsors. It's actually the only coffee I drink. One of my favorite parts about it is the fact that when I order the coffee, the roaster there, Andrew, will roast coffee specifically for me, and he'll do it for you too. Every order is made specifically for whoever orders it. That's awesome. That means fresh roasted coffee shipped to your door, and it's unbeatable. Especially in this time and day and age, you kind of want to have stuff shipped to your door. Everybody does the whole shipping thing, so why not ship your coffee too? Hit up couchtowncoffee.com, have them roast you some beans. They'll ship it out to your house. All you gotta do is grind it up and have some of the best coffee you've ever had. Go to www.couchtowncoffee.com, find a coffee you like, make an order, and when you do, enter the code word Audible Farm. At least let them know Audible Farm sent you. Why? Because they'll give you 20% off. 20% off just for listening to this podcast. The reason being is the roaster there, Andrew, is a musician himself. He loves live music. He loves music in general. He's a great guy, and he's here to support the music scene. So if you guys want some coffee, if you're coffee drinkers, I highly suggest checking out Couchtown Coffee. Thanks, Couchtown. This episode, I'm sitting down with Micah Smith from the August Guns. I didn't know Micah before the episode, and we kind of chatted a little bit before we did the interview, and then we chatted a little bit afterwards, and I gotta say, I'm a big fan. Micah's a really cool guy, and they make some good music over there at the August Guns. It's definitely worth a look. Three-piece band. It's just a three-piece band, but they fill quite a bit of sonic range with just three people. There's a new single that just recently came out. It's titled Wait for Spring, so check that out. There's singles and albums and everything out online. They're going to be releasing more singles upcoming, so that's definitely worth a look. We talk about all kind of stuff in here, including social media, making music videos. Some of the music videos they've made are insanely cool, so if you're into checking out music videos, check those out. There is a playlist on the Audible Farm YouTube channel there with Iowa music videos. I tossed some of their music videos in there, so maybe check out that playlist and scroll through, or scroll down below and just click on some of the August Guns links and listen for yourself. It's some great stuff. I hope you guys enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed sitting down talking with Micah. He's a great person. So it's episode number 128 with Micah Smith from the August Guns.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
Today I'm sitting down with Micah Smith. What do you play in the August Guns? I didn't even ask you before the interview.
I play accordion I play guitar, I write the songs, and this is my first project singing too. So that's been like the most scary, difficult, but like rewarding thing. I mean, I always say I'm the third best singer on our band, so we're a three-piece, but it's been gratifying to like work on that and get better than I was. I wouldn't call myself a good singer, but that's where it's at.
So you do all the singing in the music then?
Yeah, well, the other guys do vocals too. We all sing, and honestly, they're better than I am. Like, I'm serious that their voices are better than mine. And then I do some of the harsh vocals, and Kirk, our bass player, also does some harsh vocals. So we're all doing that, and we work out like harmonies and kind of try and make it lush like that as well. So
I'm going to ask you a question that I saw somebody had asked online on one of your music videos. Does it hurt your voice to sing those harsh style vocals?
If you do it properly, it doesn't. So I had to overcome, just like being really scared of singing in front of people. And I'm not like a super loud, verbose guy. Like some people can just do it and have no fear. Like I was so self-conscious about it that it took me years and years to like do it in front of people, and super scary singing into a microphone in front of folks. But like if you have breath support from your diaphragm instead of trying to do it all with your throat, everything goes so much better. Like if you're using the right part of your body, you can make all sorts of scary sounds. And you're totally fine. But if you don't have good breath support, you'll just wreck the crap out of your throat.
Yeah, so, I can imagine.
I've done both for sure.
Every time I hear people sing like that, it's just I don't know if I could even get my voice to do that. So just the fact that people can do that is pretty cool. I mean, I obviously there's some tips and tricks you can do to make it sound, really screamy. You could do the whole mic cupping thing and adjust the feedback of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done that one yet.
Well, you kind of can't because you're playing at the same time.
Yeah.
So, August Guns. Who else is in the band? Let's give them shout outs too while we're at it here at the beginning.
Shout out to my dudes. Royce Alanese is our drummer and another vocalist, and then our bass player Kurt Phillips. He is the bread to our butter right there. He was the last guy to join, so he's really makes it kind of what it is. My favorite part about being in a band and being in like a project is when it stops being mine and becomes ours. And so like over these past couple of years, it's just been really cool to see what has come out of like the three of us coming together and collaborating over it. So,
dude, that's
dudes.
Beautiful way of saying it too. When a project becomes the project and not just the thing one person started, it becomes an entity on its own, and it no longer has this weird like attachment to just one person. I'm not trying to like point fingers or anything, but like there's a lot of bands, even in Iowa and stuff that just seem to go that way. And I've been in some, and I'm cool with it. Like it's actually pretty fun to be a backseat driver in a band and just kind of be like, hey,
sucks.
Yeah, hey, play this stuff, and you're like, all right, cool. Here's the stuff, and then that's the end of it, But it is also kind of fun to have your own creative input and let everybody else just kind of throw something in a can, spin it around, and see what comes out the other end.
Well, and there's some point to like having that single creative vision, so it comes out like, so I write the songs, but I kind of don't polish them, and then I bring it to the dudes. And then they like pick it apart and say, how about this? And let's try this and whatever. And like, it gets so much better than that. And it helps combat what I call ugly baby syndrome, where like, if it's my creative entity and this is my baby, like, I don't care that it has 3 eyes and like 18 toes and stuff. Like, it's my precious, I've worked on it so hard. And things become so much better when you take the risk to like, let your baby be open to like, maybe we should try that, or dude, that just doesn't sound good. Like, it's hard, but
dude, we're like 5 minutes in, and you've given me 2 beautiful nuggets already. Like that's amazing, dude. I love the analogies you're coming up with for this, because it is kind of like that. That's one of the reasons I kind of don't put my music out there, though, is because sometimes I'm just like you said, this baby's mine, and I don't want anybody else to see it, and I don't want anybody else to make fun of it either,
My precious, don't talk about the unibrow. Don't do it.
Oh, man. So how did you guys end up, like, coming together and starting this band, then? Let me ask you that.
So I actually started the idea for the August Guns way back in, like, 2013, because I played in a band in Waterloo, and I just got to the point where, like, I wanted to try something different. It was very much like we were at the point where we either need to like commit or quit, crap or get off the pot, whatever. And I wanted to crap. I wanted to go all in. I wanted to have that be our life. And not everybody was on the same page. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm starting a new one. So I moved down to Des Moines. My life totally fell apart. Just life changing, spiritual, emotional, vocational, just everything all changes. And for a couple of years, I just like was kind of floating along, sort of picking up the pieces of my life, and I would write some songs. And then in about 2015, I met a few dudes through church, and they were musicians. And so we got together. I was like, hey, I got this project going. And they joined me. We worked hard, did a record called Salome down here. And then over the next few years, a couple members came and went. And I think in 2017, 2016, something like that, Royce joined the band, and he's like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, some drummers just have this like crack to their playing, just like there's a sound in it that just, I heard him play the first time and I was like, this is it right here. Like, this is my dude. And we just like musically, we just are very intuitive and get along really well. And so we wrote our next record, and then our bass player, we got a different one, and Kurt came in, and now he's added his own, feng shui to it. And this would be record number 2 that's coming out with our particular blend. But So it's been like a long process, but for being active, it's only been like what, 5 years, 5, 6 years, something like that. So
Yeah, you said another thing there about like sometimes there's a lot of people that talk about like the bassist and the drummer being like, married at the hip, and they kind of are, but there is also something special to say about a guitarist and a drummer that mesh well together. I played a lot with no bassist and a drummer through most of my, playing in my 20s when I was just kind of dinking around and stuff. So I learned how to, maybe use rhythms and palm mutes and little ditties that are like, oh, I bet the drummer's going to throw a triplet at the end of this, so we'll do some triplet stuff, and I started to learn how to kind of like mimic the rhythms of the guitar to the drums and kind of match it up. And it's one of those things that I think is, I don't want to say undervalued, but I feel like that's something that is kind of one of those weird things where like a rhythm guitarist and a bassist aren't terribly far off from one another, So if you kind of lean in towards the bass end of things, you can kind of really start to, like I said, have this really good connection with the drummer that makes things extra tight,
And one of the things that I wanted to do when starting the August Guns, like I came from a 5-piece where everybody's like, like Wayne's World and shredding all over the place and stuff. And I wanted to like go the other way up, take it back, like just have very kind of stripped down. Everybody's on the same, like very syncopated, very tight. And that's why I was like, I want to have it be a 3-piece band, like just really kind of start with subtraction and like go with the bare bones and then add things on top versus like everybody's like, well, now I've got to like shred and do this crazy like tapping bass lick and stuff like that. Like when there's so much going on, it kind of takes away from the whole, like all the parts get too much and it sort of takes away from the whole. So like, yeah, I just kind of changed my philosophy on songwriting and that. But Royce and I just have a very like intuitive, you talked about like triplets at the end of things, like our rhythmic sensibilities are pretty in tune with that. So, and I think as a band, we've expanded out a little bit more into, I don't know, maybe a more lush sound and stuff like that over the past couple of releases. But it's all growing. It's all like a constant process. And I'm excited about these new songs because I think they're the best we've done so far. But like I'm excited about future songs because I think we can do better too. So it's a continual thing.
Yeah. You were mentioning being in another band, doing the whole deedly, 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 that whole thing. And what was the whole story with that band? I mean, I think it takes a lot of work to be in a band that plays a lot of notes like that. It's not something that you can just be like, hey, you want to play a show with us this weekend? Here's the songs. It's not something you can just do like that. So how did you go from being in what I might call like a fusion-y kind of shreddy type of band into what I would call maybe, I don't know, it's not even new rock, but it's that like post-rock, post-punk rock kind of a thrice-ish kind of sound that you guys have?
Yeah, I think just for one thing, like the old band, I love those guys, love them to death, super talented, but like I think part of it is just maturity as far as like when you can realize that you can play something really simple and like groove and have it sound good versus like having to always try and be impressive. I know that at least like for me and what I wanted to add to a song, I remember like always wanting to do something like make it kind of cool. And like when you have 5 people and they're doing that, like it kind of ends up a lot of specials. It's like a cake made of all sprinkles, you know what I mean? Like there's no like meat to it, and so we're all over with that. But I mean those guys, they're super talented, but I think just maturity and songwriting, and then I don't know, I was kind of stubborn with it too, and be like, okay, I've done this and now I want to do this, so I'm going back and forth.
Sometimes just changing the genre you play in is enough to give you that second breath of fresh air to kind of realize like, I don't dislike what I was doing. but it's nice to have this other thing to do as well. You know, it's like you said, it's nothing against any other band members or you use the term maturity, but I mean that's another one we could throw in air quotes big time.
Yeah.
Because
What I tell you about air quotes? Not to use them. Yeah.
dude, I feel you though. Like when I was growing up, I felt like you had to be show off. You had to be able to shred a bunch. People had to just sit there and be like, "Wow, my mind is blown by your technical abilities," and you know, and the older I got, the more I was just kind of like, yeah, you know, that's not always the case. You can have like a certain kind of energy on stage. You know, you can be that guy from a rhythm guitar standpoint. You don't have to always just shred and play tons and tons of notes. And it's not like everybody's, you know, I always think like everyone's a good guitarist and they judge you based on that, but not everyone is like a shred-tastic guitarist that's just like, this guy can't shred, you know? And it's that weird thing where like I think a lot of us have that in our brains where we're like, if we don't shred and just kick a bunch of butt right now, nobody's going to like our music and they're just going to walk out. And, you know, it's just this weird thing. I feel like you said it comes a lot with age. Like when I was younger, I played a lot of like metal type stuff, you know, just heavy, you know, you get your Metallicas and Megadeths and stuff. And that was the best, you know, and now I'm cool with playing country music and then all sorts of stuff, you know, genres are open to anything, you know, and it's kind of crazy though. Like how I still think did you like bands kind of like Thrice and things like that? And that's why you kind of leaned this way, or was it just something that was like, oh, I wrote this thing and this is kind of just how it came out?
So I think like metal got me through high school, and like I think that was part of the shreddiness as far as in my first bands were more like I got really, really, really into like, Opeth was my favorite band in high school. Like I love them. Now they've gone like prog rock. That's a whole nother story. I'll cry about it later. But like, yeah, so I was really into metal, and then I kind of got into more of this group, and people had different influences, and they expanded my tastes, and so I got into more of that like alternative emo post-hardcore stuff. So I remember our old singer was like Brand New was his biggest thing, and at first I was like, this sucks, there's no shredding, blah blah blah, but then I realized like no, like this is really good, just in a different way. And so I kind of got off my high horse as far as like technicality comes, and now I'm a lot more chill. Like I went through when I started the August Guns, I was very much getting into like a punk rock phase of, you know what, screw technicality, I'm just going to be like, you know, fast and energetic and more about that versus the shreddiness of it. And yeah, Thrice was one of my favorite bands, but I was kind of on the fence about them because they weren't especially their older stuff has gotten less technical as they've matured too. I mean, their first couple of records, Artist in the Ambulance and Illusion of Safety, Identity Crisis, were more like,
yep.
But yeah, when it chilled out, I realized like they don't have to shred, but they can also be super powerful and super dynamic without having to like, you know, sweep pick and do all those kind of things. And yeah, now, I mean, anymore, like I feel like I gravitate between like bluegrass and alt country, and then death metal. Like those are my two areas where I'm going. I don't those things. So
and you just met in the middle, and
yeah, and here we are. I don't know, but that's what I'm listening to right now. So
no, I feel you though too. Once again, with it's this weird thing where I feel like melodies might be more important the older we get, or the harmony of the music, or the cliche is the space between the notes, you know, and. Mm-hmm. I feel like that definitely has something to be said. Like you fall in love with the space between the notes. I'm not trying to like point anybody out, but like Kiss is a band. I played a cover song of Kiss's at one of the last shows I played, and it was just like, this song is so easy, and there's like barely any notes, but it's just the whole fact that it's got a simple rhythm. Nobody's shredding or anything, but it's like this is a decent song, you know. And it's not like they went over the top and made, you know, like you said, sweet picking all over the place, but. Yeah, it's one of those weird things where I feel, once you said again, like getting off your high horse, that's something a lot of us, I feel as musicians kind of do eventually as we progress in our musical journeys, you know. Like I said, I used to just be like, well, if it's not as heavy as Megadeth, I don't want to hear it, you know, and I don't even want to play it. And now I'm to the point where I'm playing, you know, George Strait songs and stuff like that, you know, on the sides, or playing like folk music at jam nights and things like that. Cool. So I've definitely changed a lot over the years, and it seems like, I'm not the only one that's doing it. You are too. You're kind of just changing with the times and things like that. You were discussing an album, but I've noticed a lot of your stuff gets released, or at least recently you've been releasing singles. I like to discuss that with people. What's your take on the album versus singles in the 2021 Spotify music market?
Yeah, so the world has like I feel like we're overcoming a mindset of coming out of like the 80s, 90s, 2000s where like you could drop like I remember being so excited for, whatever band's new album and you'd go to Sam Goody or FYE or some other defunct media outlet and pick up your favorite band's new record. And now it's all online and you can get it immediately and it's all streaming. And so like the world has kind of tipped on its side as far as like, okay, instead of dumping 10 songs right here and everybody's excited for it, now because of instant access and streaming stuff, it's kind of more about like putting out content and like continually producing things that will kind of pique people's interests, at least for a tiny amount of time. And so getting that more bang for your buck and the mileage of people's attention, because we're so inundated with like just thousands and thousands of bands and music videos and podcasts and stuff like that. And so it's kind of just a change that is made in the light of the reality that we have, just the way that the music industry is right now. So yeah, this new record is just coming out single by single by single with like a video companion thing for each of them. And it's a lot more work, I think. Mm-hmm. But you kind of have to change with the times or die a little bit in some aspects, Mm-hmm. And as far like that, I think is a more an area where I'm more willing to embrace that than like I guess with the music that we write, it kind of just is what it is. And if you like it, you like it, and if you don't, you don't. It's not your thing. There's a million other things to choose from, so go for it. But the release strategy, I think, is just that's something that. So far, it's been really good to this is even our second single that we've released. We've got 3 more coming out. And so,
cool.
I'm excited to see what it happens this time for this release cycle. And then, if we'll take what works from this one and try something else for the next one. So,
yeah, I think you're bang on with that too. 'Cause it's, the way social media works and I mean, it's generally just social media, the way it's changed everything. It's, I mean, you could post once a day on your social media and it may not even be enough, and so you liken that to putting out albums. You could put out 1 album a year, but it might not be enough, and like you said, if you have an album and it's got, I mean, we'll just say 6 songs on it, every 2 months you release something brand new and people get to see new stuff 6 times a year instead of just throwing it all out there at once and saying gobble it all up. It's almost like you're helping people ration your new music instead of just being like, here's a pile of food, make it last all year. You're just like, here's a couple nibbles here, here's a couple nibbles there, and people are looking forward to the next nibbles they're gonna get.
Because when you dump it all on, like most of it honestly gets overlooked because we have like goldfish attention spans anymore. So like, oh, that song's cool. Bored. Now I'm onto YouTube and I'm TikToking or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like doing stuff like that. So it's changed, and being sour about it doesn't get you anywhere.
Ooh,
you know what I mean?
no.
Like I feel like that's the biggest battle for me is to embrace the kind of like the vapid reality of the way that we consume music and stuff anymore. And like, I don't know, I'm trying to be more positive and embrace like having to make social media posts on a consistent basis and come up with new content that actually serves people versus, doing it out of obligation and hating my life.
That's true. I listened to a podcast not terribly long ago. It was Mike Schulte from the Pork Tornadoes had one. It's the Iowa Music Podcast. It was a couple weeks back he released the episode, but he discussed that about how like you kind of have to post every day and sometimes more than once a day. And you can actually use your like schedule features on the Facebook app in order to schedule stuff out, so you don't have to like set an alarm and be like 11 o'clock I gotta write something and post it. You can just auto post it and it does it all for you. It's kind of a nice feature that I think some people should take advantage of. Another one might be the cross-posting feature. On like Instagram, you can cross-post around with that. So you don't have to have like Hootsuite or any of those, multi-social media platforming type things to post across everything. We were talking about singles. I'm going to mention, I don't think I mentioned it at the beginning. We were talking a little bit beforehand about it, but you do have a new single. Came out, I guess at the time we're recording this, it came out a couple weeks ago, and it was Wait for Spring. It came out February 12th. Was that the first song on this album, or was that the second song on this album that you're...
It's the second song on the album. The first one was released on New Year's Day, called Be Not Burned Up. And we got a lot of cool traction, good feedback from that. And this one's a little different, a little lighter, little like more pop punk alternative-esque, and we've had a lot of really cool reaction to that too. So and the next one coming out is different than that, so I'm just excited to see what lands and what doesn't. So
yeah, you were talking about making video packages for all these, and it's not just something as simple as making a video package. You got full-blown music videos for this stuff, not just like guy holding an iPhone music video, which there's nothing wrong with that. I've made those music videos and they work great, but you actually have like some high-end professional stuff with post-editing and the whole 9 yards. How did you figure all that out? Or did you do it all? Did you have somebody else help you out with it? Or how does that work out?
So we are blessed with some really, really talented friends. And this would be the second. So I guess technically Be Not Burn Up was our third like big music video. And it's so much about who you know. We know there's a videographer in Des Moines named Andrew Peterson, another videographer named Hannah Wright. Those were the guys who did like the actual shooting for us as far as the live band footage and the actors and stuff like that. And then one of Royce's good buddies is a guy named Chris Norsworthy out of Louisiana. I think he's in New Orleans. And he did the animation that was on this newest video. So like after we did all the filming and they did all the editing and stuff, then we sent it down to him and he did this animation and kind of took it to a really cool different place. And I don't know. I don't know why these talented like people will work with us, because I'm like kind of feel like a Wayne's World thing. Like we're not worthy. Like it's just amazing how these people can do what they do. Because I can barely. I feel like your grandma on social media and like using phones and stuff like that. Like, how does this work? How do you they're in the, like, I'm technologically incompetent. And so people who can like do that kind of stuff just amaze me, but they're awesome.
Yeah. I do have to like admit that is like one of those things. Some people don't want to admit that it's who you know. And there is, to an extent, like, let me put it this way. If you guys' music stunk, you wouldn't have thousands of listens on Spotify, though. So, like, you can't just be like, well, the videographer did all the work. He made it good. And it's like, no, you guys had to have good music in order for somebody to even want to work with you in the first place. So, and I'm not lying. I looked it up on Spotify. Some of your stuff has thousands and thousands and thousands of listens. So, it's not, like I said, it's not like, don't sell yourself short on this and be like, well, we are not worthy, because you most certainly are. I've been in bands that haven't cleared thousands of listens. So it's not something to take lightly. That's for sure.
Yeah. And it's still a wild thing. And this is kind of an insecurity as an artist that like comes out of my head, but you know how it's hard to tell the difference between like fans and friends. Like, my mom thinks our music is awesome, or my little brother thinks that I'm the coolest dude. And so there's that insecurity in the back of my mind. There's like, do you really like it, or do you like me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, do you love it, or do you love me? And so anytime we interact with somebody who we don't have a personal connection with, who's like, dude, I love the music, I'm like, to me, it's a little dangerous for me, because it kind of strokes the ego. And I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody actually likes what I did. Oh man, maybe all this time and effort and energy is like worth it or whatnot. But so yeah, it's growing listens in Spotify and all that stuff. It's a grind. And so it's really, really, it's encouraging when somebody actually finds your music and likes it and has no
like ulterior motives or anything like that.
Yeah, no ulterior motive and not that, my mom has any ulterior motive to support me, but she's just a sweet woman, like that's what it is. But
yeah, I'm totally with you. I feel that. Like, it's so weird, because I had somebody at the last show I played come up, and I pretty sure I'm friends with him on Facebook, but we don't like interact or talk or anything. And he was like, dude, I listen to your podcast every week. And it was like, boom, I can't believe it. That is so crazy, you know, but there is that artist thing where like some of it is the stroking of the ego, but some of the other end of it is like, I better not mess this up now. I got people listening and people depending on me. This better be good, you know? So there is that other end of it that I do feel a lot of us actually have those emotions that you're describing. I mean, regardless of whether or not some of us want to admit it, because some of us, you know, like, well, I'm heavy, I'm metal, I don't, my only emotion is anger, you know. So like, there are some of that, but at the same time, I've everything you're describing, I feel like I've felt the same way at one point in time too. So you're not far off as far as, you know, the way you're considering all this. I'm sure other people think the same way too. If anybody else thinks the same way, hit us up. You know, I don't know, but
we feel your feelings.
Yes.
Talk to it. Do it.
So let's talk about playing live shows. Live shows are all but non-existent. There are some live shows, and they're legal to have. People can be safe out there in public if they want to. So you can go to a show if you want to, but you can also choose to not go to a show if you want to. So it's cool. A lot of bands are doing the live stream thing. That's fine. You know, so let's come at this from an objective point of view, and let's just say, based on all these facts, that it's like safe to play live and things like that, but not everyone wants to go out. Are you guys playing any live shows anywhere? Have you played any this year?
Oh, you're making me sad, man. So last thing we did was, gosh, I want to say it's probably in March of last year, and we did a live stream from Lefties, and it was super awesome. It was really cool too. So I always tell my guys, like, I heard the 3 to 3,000 rule somewhere along the line, but you got to play the same to 3 people as you would to 3,000. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of, you know, pour it all out there. You know, if it's a good show, if your fingers are bloody and you got a headache and you feel like crap the next day, like that's just how we try and roll.
Yeah.
And we're very experienced at playing in front of very few people.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. I remember, so see, 319 Fest in Cedar Rapids, we've been there a few times, and gosh, this year we played, they like sequestered the metal and the rap stage off in like a parking lot away from the festival, and there was no shade. So there's 3 of us, we set up our stuff in it's blazing hot parking lot. It's like 90 some degrees, no shade, nothing like that. We start our set, I'm yelling to, like, 'cause we're way out there, no one can hear us from, I think we got like maybe 3 people to come and watch, including the sound. Yeah, man. But it, like, you got to play the same to them as you would to anybody else. So it's just about having fun, like going wild and yeah, just giving it your all. And that's kind of how it was with the live stream, except with less pressure. Actually, I don't know. It was just like, this is weird. This is innovative. Let's do it. And looking back, I thought it was like, man, we brought the energy, but you also get that artist critique of being like, ooh, I gotta work on supporting my breath there because I kind of go flat and all those kind of things. So getting out of that and just enjoying it for what it was as a moment in time of like, here was this performance, here's what was good about it, here's what was not. And that was the last time we got to play because we really focused on writing and recording this new set of songs. We did the studio in August, and then from there it's been a lot of work of like post and mixing and getting these videos and stuff like that. And I don't know, I have to be kind of careful with like exposure. Just I've got some family who have compromised immune systems and stuff, so I've got to be a little bit more careful with that. So right now we don't have any live shows planned. I actually had to shut somebody down via email. They were like, hey, we're coming through at this time. And I was like, we're not booking shows right now. Like, sorry, bro. But I don't know. Like the whole future of everything is up in the air right now. So it kind of sucks because there's nothing quite like that feeling. And I don't know when I'm going to get to feel that again. So,
yeah, I like the 3 to 3,000 rule. I feel like that's one that some people might argue with, because there is this thing where, like, I'm sure we've all seen it, where you go to see a band play live and you're in a bar with 40 people in it and they're playing like there's an arena, you know, and some people are like, dude, just tone it down. But at the same rate, like, that's cool. I'd rather have that than people just standing there all melancholy, like not moving at all, you know,
Yeah.
not even seeming into their music at all. But there, like I said, there is a little difference between the 3 to 3,000 rule, and there is a little bit of difference between that and like I'm an 80s band in an arena in 1989, you know, just
Yeah.
and there's no budget. There's like a bazillion lights and smoke machines and everyone's partying and the hair's huge. And but I'm with you. I like to be energetic on stage. I play rhythm guitar in a punk band, so it's not like I get to be too flashy and shreddy and stuff like that.
Yep.
And it's cool. I'm all right with it. But that also is just like, man, I'm moving around the stage. I'm doing the power stance. I'm playing with like the shoulder movement instead of just the picking hand kind of thing. You know, I'm doing the whole punk rock head banging and that whole thing. And like the last show I played, like you said, I was just like, man, my neck kind of hurts. And I was just like, yeah, my hips kind of hurt. And I was like, well, I power stanced for like 7 minutes straight.
Oh, this is terrible.
But, you know, we've been blessed in the band I'm in, Three Finger Betty, to be able to at least, you know, go out there and play a few shows this year.
Which we wanted to play with you guys before all of this stuff came down. So I don't know. Maybe one day we will grace the stage together. But
yes.
Yeah.
You know,
it's hard to find like artists in the Des Moines area. Like Des Moines is a weird music scene, so it's like, yeah.
It is. I know so many people that don't want to admit that. I know so many people that talk very poorly about it too, though. Like, the Des Moines music scene, there's too many musicians. It's all butt metal, and everybody hates each other, and then nobody gets paid at the venues, and dirk. And all I gotta say is this. Just support each other. That's what it comes down to, is supporting each other.
It's what you make it, so quit being a douche.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, we played it at Hull, got a payout. It was a payout that was big. People bought our merch. We were we're a punk band, but we were with 2 metal bands. It all worked out fine. Nobody hated each other, you know? And trust me, I get it. It's tough to go in there with a positive mindset every time. But if you do, it's going to come out better. Like you said, it's what you make of it that's really going to be the big thing.
Sure.
I do want to touch back on that Lefties live stream. I bet if you go to Lefties YouTube page, or at least their Facebook page, you could probably see August Guns live on there somewhere. I know the videos, they left them up online somewhere.
Yeah, it's around. Yeah, so
yeah.
If anybody's bored and wants to dig it up and watch me like struggle to breathe properly to hit all the notes, I'm there. But we bring the energy. We don't always bring perfect pitch, but we bring the energy. So, dude,
like I said, there's something to say about that, because everybody kind of gets into it with you. If you're getting into your own music, other people are going to follow suit. But like I said, if you're just standing there like, you know, people are just going to be like, well, these guys don't even like what they're doing. You know, why would I go nuts?
I hate watching musicians or playing with musicians who look like they've really got to drop a deuce, and like they're just holding it in, like they look so uncomfortable, but they might be, you know, fantastically accurate and everything like that. But if you look miserable on stage, I'm not like, man, this guy knows what a good time is about. Like, and in contrast to that, like one of my favorite bands as far as stage presence, there's 2. One, The Chariot. Like when I first saw they just blew me away. But I saw Horse the Band in like 2007, I think, and they were with Between the Buried and Me at the Picador in Iowa City, and I had no idea who Horse the Band were. They showed up late. They were rude to the crowd. Someone was like, "You're late," and the singer was like, "You're late, 10-month baby," and then they just ripped into their set. And the whole place, like, they brought just insane amount of energy, and they've been one of my favorite bands ever since. Not for their precision, but for their just nuts energy that they destroyed the venue. It was so cool.
Yeah.
So
maybe not your favorite band professionalism wise. You know?
Yeah, no, they're kind of not always very, you know, kind, but like musically they're super awesome, and they've got like keyboard and stuff like that. They're unique, but.
Yeah, I've seen Between the Buried and Me, great band. You know, that's another one of those fun things, like going in slightly open-minded to a show where you're like, I'm going to see this band, and then I'm gonna consciously make a choice not to just boo the headliner, you know, and then you'd sit there and you take it all in, and you're like, this actually isn't so bad, you know. And I found a lot of fun bands doing that, you know, where you go to see one band and you're like, oh, this band actually surprised me because I've seen this other band 6 times already, you know, and
yeah. Well, and BT Bam is like one of those bands on the other end of the spectrum where they're super like very tight, like incredible musically, but they don't move all that much. Like Tommy will go around and rah, 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 like, but everybody else is very kind of hyper focused on their instrument and playing excellently. But then what struck me about Horse is that they just didn't care, and they just ripped it apart. Like the whole venue exploded. It was awesome. So
Yeah, that's super cool. That's super cool. Yeah, the live show thing, it's tough. It's really tough. But I will say, I'm going to come back to that Lefties thing and say Lefties did a great job inviting bands in one at a time to play shows and stream them. And obviously, like, it was tough for bands to get a cut of anything because there's nobody in there to buy merch, you know. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, well, if you want to play, you can come here and play, and we'll record it and put it online. And they had great audio, great video. I think it was just single camera shots, if I'm not mistaken, but it worked well. It really worked well. Yep. And you know, you got to commend Lefties for giving people a place to play, even when nothing else was open, and doing it as, you know, as safely as they thought they could to get it done.
And
so
Eric and Ann and Brad, like those guys have just been, I mean, if I were to pick like a home venue for us, that would be it. Like Lefties has always been super good to us and just opening, like giving us a spot to play and give us as much opportunity as possible, even sometimes more than we could take, because like, you know, life and being old and married and kids and stuff like that, like you can't just, we're not quite the spring chickens that we used to be, so we can't just like pick up and go on tour for 3 months at a time. But
yeah, oh man. The music video things, I've actually created a YouTube playlist. It's like, I can't remember the exact name of it, like music videos from Iowa bands, something like that. So if you search that, you can find a playlist with music videos from bands across Iowa, spanning the last 20 years, all different genres, and your guys's 3 music videos are on there. I think there's 3. Pretty sure all 3 are on there.
That's all we got. So if there's a 4th one, we've got an imposter here.
I'll have to double check to make sure I put them all on there, because I put everything on there except for your new single. And then today I was like, oh crap, I didn't put the new single on there. So I put that in there today. And so there's that YouTube playlist if anybody's looking for that, to check out August Gunn's music videos. Otherwise, they're on your YouTube page with everything else, even audio from your previous releases and things like that. You got a pretty good YouTube page when it comes down to having all that stuff kind of just organized in one spot, because you can, like I said, you can find all the music, pretty much all the music you've made there. So that's another thing I feel like gets underrated is just bands and their social media. And I'm not saying everyone has to be a social media savvy pro about it, but I feel like you guys have done a pretty good job with your social media as far as being able to reach out and create like a professional place for people to come find you and enjoy your material.
It's tough, man. Like, so that's actually what, like, one of the things that I do in the band. And again, the biggest struggle is like the attitude of it for me, like to come into it, trying to like love people and serve people through the content that we post, instead of being like, look at me, look at me, look at me. 'Cause that's what social media feels like to me. And it just feels really vain. And I don't know, if I don't believe in something, it's really hard for me to do it. So I'm like, here, you know, if I come in with the attitude of gotta post today, and here's another check out my music, look at me sort of thing, like I burn out with that really, really fast. So like the battle for me is like internally, okay, how do we come up with content that actually like can be useful to people, can actually make, I don't know, give some kind of a positive impact to their day, and then also you know, grow in professionalism and like you said, having all that source of things where it's not impossible to navigate and is clear for people what they're finding. And I don't know, I feel like even within the last couple of weeks, I've had to write like a PR bio and change up some different things and stuff, like, so it's just a continual process of learning. And yeah, but the biggest fight is, man, like right here with how I feel about the attitude of going into that kind of stuff. Because if I go on autopilot, I'm like, screw this, I just want to play my guitar. Like,
yeah, I'm totally with you. Anybody that's known me for, you know, most of my life knows that I was like ludicrously headstrong about 10 years back when I was younger. I had that whole like 10 foot tall and bulletproof kind of mindset, which is, it's okay to have, but it depends on how you use it. So like when I would post back in the day, I'd just be like, dude, I'm the greatest. Check out all this cool stuff I do. I'm so awesome. Everyone should just love everything I do. And now I'm well reserved. I'm very not that person anymore. And it's tough to be on the other end of that too, because like you said, if your heart's not in it, I end up posting like self-deprecating things where it's just like, I'm going to be at a thing tonight in Des Moines playing some stuff. Come check it out. And it's like, that's not a good promotion for like your band at all.
Yeah. Good job, Eeyore. Yeah.
No,
I get that. I naturally fall into that end of the spectrum where I'm like, here's some stuff. Probably sucks. There's a lot of things to do, but try it out. So, you know.
I'm glad I'm not the only one, dude, because sometimes it works out when you post stuff like that because people are like, that's pretty funny, actually. This guy, he's not taking himself seriously like everyone else is. And
there's a balance to find, and some people really have that. Like Bill Murray, the band, I don't know. He was a guy in Attack, but now he goes under the name Bill Murray, and he's good at that like tongue-in-cheek, low quality but high quality like meme and social. He's like really, really brilliant at it. But like that's his thing. So if I would try to replicate that, it would just be like, oh, look at here's Micah trying to be Bill Murray right here. Like I don't know. You got to find your thing and creating a brand and all that stuff. That's a whole other animal. But
yeah, and some of it comes down to just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. As far as social media, if you see someone else do something that was successful, put your own spin on it, try it out. As dumb as it sounds, like some of the best Three Finger Betty posts have been memes. We used to post like memes every now and then where it's just like Justin Bieber dumb at music, and people were just like hooray, and it was like, okay, that's cool, we got the reaction we wanted to. And I think that was our most popular post in like 2019 or something, was like a Justin Bieber meme, and it was like, all right, we need to do something about this, let's make the meme about us, or like the album we just put out or whatever. And it's actually been kind of fun because people are sharing some of the memes where it's just like Indiana Jones and he's like, instead of he's in the whatever Temple of Doom or whatever movie, I don't know, I'm not a big Indiana Jones fan, but he's like staring at our album instead of whatever that gold doohickey he's trying to steal out of the caves was. You probably know, I don't know, I'm not good at
he's trying to snatch the idol off the thing, and but that's yours.
Bingo, yes. So I replaced the idol with the Three Finger Betty new EP, and people are just like, that's funny, and it's like, yeah, it is kind of funny, and it kind of makes people laugh and see what you're trying to get at too. And you don't have to make this big post where it's like, dude, we are so cool, you got to buy our album, it's only $5, Bandcamp, woo woo woo, and that's another thing. It's tough not to be a shill online, to be like, check my stuff out, I'm so cool, buy it, pay me money. And
you're kind of like taking that and making it your own a bit too. You can tell a band is getting tired when they're just kind of posting. You can tell when people quit trying, you know what I mean, or they're just going on autopilot. I can tell when I quit trying and I go on autopilot. So it's hard. There's an art to it, and
So let's see here. We're going to go back through this. Wait for Spring was the single that just recently came out. What's the next single coming out? Do you know, do you have the name for it yet?
I do. The next single is a song called Safer in the Shadows. I think this is the first speaking of that name into the internet right here. No one knows about that yet. So that will come out, I think, the end of next month, if I remember on the cycle. So, and it's I mean, the name sounds darker. The song is darker. I'm interested to see how this one will be received. We actually finished and wrote it in the studio. That was the one song that we didn't have arranged and all finished up by the time we went down there. And then I ended up playing some grand piano on it. We did a few arrangement things, and I ended up playing the piano on a section which I thought I was going to use another instrument on it. So it sounds cool, and it's different. So
while we're on the topic of music and things coming out and the titles of songs and content within songs, we did talk a little bit about it before the podcast, but let's I do want to bring it up here because other people might want me to ask it. Are you guys would you call yourselves a Christian band? I want to preface this by saying there's a lot of Christian bands that are, you could just air quote it and just say Christian or whatever, and that could go either way. You can have people trying to jump in on the Christian act that aren't Christian and trying to lean that way, or you can have people that are trying to lean towards Christian on the Christian end that are trying to pull people in. But I feel like you guys are doing a a pretty good job because it's vague. It's vague. So what would you consider yourselves really?
So I would say, man, we could do a whole podcast on this topic right here.
Oh,
But
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I would say that we are a band of Christians, but I would, and that comes out. I mean, you can't compartmentalize that. You know, it's going to be, it's part of who you are, so it's going to come out in your music.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that we are a Christian band because that can be like, I know when I would hear that, that would immediately pigeonhole that act and be like, okay, these people are going to be great with like Switchfoot
Mm-hmm.
and Reliant K and all these other like acceptable, socially like vanilla bands that were tried to, my parents and other people tried to kind of like spoon feed me when I was younger, and I was like, this sucks, give me Suffocation, like, you know, I want so yeah, just growing up in that, I remember just immediately being turned off by that label.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was really impressed by other bands like Thrice, who had very biblically inspired lyrics and themes and everything like that. But it wasn't like overt, like we're a Christian band, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. It was, but in like a more real way. And so I guess that's what I aspire to as far as an artist, to like really be honest and share what's in me and what's happened in my life, but then do it in such a way that's like relatable and not cheesy, because growing up in the 90s, like we've had our share of cheese and terrible Christian music. So
yeah, we discussed a few bands. We'll just sweep naming the bands we thought were cheesy under the rug for now, but I'm sure if there's any other people that kind of grew up Christian and liked music, kind of know what we're talking about. For those that don't, whatever, it's not really a loss or a gain for you. You can just keep doing whatever you're doing. But I loved what you said. You used one word to describe all this, and it has almost nothing to do with the fact that religion plays any part in this. It's real, you know, it's
Mm-hmm.
relatable. Like you said, it's not over cheese, you know, because that's why 80s hair metal died out, because at first it was kind of real, and then it was just like cheese, 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 and then it was just all cheese, and then it just went away, you know. And that's kind of what happens with, like you said, some of these bands that really try to push the envelope of being, we're this thing and we're only this thing, and you have to know that we're this thing, and if you're not in on us being this thing, then don't be in on us at all, kind of deal, you know. And there were a lot of really good bands though that towed the line pretty well, like you said. You know, I mean, you and I have differing opinions on music, I'm sure, but like Switchfoot wasn't like terrible, you know. They were good. Yeah. They were a good band, you know. So
maybe I shouldn't have lumped it in the bucket. I just remember like these, and I actually didn't grow up with. I remember the first record that I was allowed to buy was POD's Satellite.
Yep.
And so it was like, okay, here you can have this, and this is like safe. And so I actually wasn't even exposed to like Switchfoot and Reliant K until years and years later. Mm-hmm. But I spent about 10 years of my life from like age, I don't know, 14, 15 to like age 25, running as far and as hard as I could from anything involved with God and Jesus and Christianity. So like I remember seeing that label, being like, I want to go as far the opposite way as possible. So there was just this like set of approved musical artists that you could have, and I was like, that, you know.
Yeah.
I went the other way. And so when I became a Christian at 25, it was like I feel like there's this blackout in my life of I missed out on that kind of culture and that what actually happened in there. And Switchfoot was one of those things where just went past me because I was way too into Black Dahlia Murder, which the newest record is dope, by the way. I still love it.
Dude, you're so right, though. Like when you started naming a couple bands, it made me think like POD. There was a lot of bands that leaned into that we might be Christian kind of thing, you know, and like Creed did it even, you know.
Yeah.
And they weren't like explicit or overt about it, but like Scott Stapp every now and then would kind of mention it, you know, a little bit here and there, and it was like, we're not a Christian band, but we're, you know, I'm a Christian, and you know, and it's like, okay, that's cool, you know. But I feel like there were a lot of bands that almost tried to like capitalize on this market that like they thought like I could make some money off these people, you know, and it was just the disingenuousness or something. I don't know.
Exactly. That's the thing that just makes my skin crawl with it. And people are hungry for it too, because like putting people and artists in boxes makes sense. I remember, I think it was last year or something like that. Like Chris Pratt mentioned that he thanked God in like a speech or something like that, and people latched onto that and were like, he's a celebrity Christian, like he believed. And saying God is like, there are many religions that believe in God, so that like people just want to jump and make an assumption about and like have a hero to look up to, and I don't know, just I really like that disingenuousness and that using labels and stuff to make money is like it's been a long road back for me to walk, as far as like not just hearing a label and being like, I don't want anything to do with that, and understanding the importance and the efficacy of like the PR and putting like, okay, this band might be for fans of this, here's the genre, stuff like that, and not having it twisted to be like marketable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I'm totally with you, because I feel like our lives sort of kind of parallel one another. Like I grew up pretty Christian in a maybe sort of Christian-ish household, but like, I don't know, I went to church. It's actually how I started playing guitar, was at a church. So like, that's something I've always said to people. If you go to church and you want to learn how to play guitar, you're at the perfect place to do it. Nobody's gonna be like, boo, from the pulpit.
G,
Yeah.
E minor, D. Got it.
Nailed it. But it's like everyone's supportive. Nobody's going to boo you. Everyone's going to help you out. It's going to be fun. And that's how I got started. And it gave me a big confidence boost and things like that. I kind of like you, just kind of eventually just turned and ran from it. And then it wasn't until I went back to college and took an intro to religions course where I was just like, oh, I demonized this thing that shouldn't have ever been demonized. And now I have a broader outlook on life, and I'm a little bit more understanding about things. And like you said, I, like a Christian, used to just see somebody like, oh, Hulk Hogan's got a cross necklace on. He's such a cool Christian. He's world champion wrestler, dude. And then you're like,
what? People, brother. Yeah. Like, it's
But then you're like, is he really, is he doing justice? And is what he's doing like spreading, quote unquote, the word? And it's like, well, then I don't know. But it's that towing the line thing, or trying to market yourself into something that might not actually be there.
Yeah. And then you see the abusive things with like Trumpism and like the marriage of like evangelical Christianity and the Republican Party. We can a whole nother podcast thing.
This definitely isn't a religion podcast, but like I guess the point I'm trying to get at is I had to ask you. So like you guys are doing, I had to ask you if you were Christian band or whatever, but that just means that you guys are doing, as far as I'm concerned, doing it right. You're not pushing anything down anybody's throats. You're not trying to just be like, hey, you guys should all buy our stuff because we're this thing. Like you said, you're kind of using the boxes, but you're not really putting yourself like, all my eggs aren't in this basket. That's like probably the best way I can use the analogy. If anybody's looking for the music, like I said, it's all over online, Spotify. I've got links that are going to be in the description section of this podcast for all this. So if you're intrigued by this, like I said, I had to listen to your music a decent amount of times before I even like thought like, I wonder if these guys are a Christian. And then I like I said, I even had to ask you. So it's not, like I said, it's not overt. You guys are doing a beautiful job at it. And, it's one of those weird things that in today's society, it's everybody's got to toe a line somewhere to not offend somebody else, and it's just such a weird thing. And I feel like I don't know why religion gets thrown in there too, like you said, and it's politics and it's this big mess. So like, it's nice that you guys aren't pigeonholing or labeling yourself this way. I loved the fact that you guys said you're kind of like Thrice, and that's another band where it's like, I would have never just been like, these guys are Christian, like a Christian band, they're pushing it down your throat. No, that's a perfect example for what you guys are doing. It's very beautiful music that's being, the lyrical content fits along with it, and it's thought provoking is the best way I could say it.
Cool. Well, yeah, man, I mean, I feel like we talked about, being genuine and disingenuous and stuff like that. Like, I would be disingenuous if I came to you and felt like I had all the answers. All I can really present in my is like my messy life and my own journey and like what I've been through and what I've experienced. And that's the coolest part. That honestly, the part that I miss about shows is that like being able to talk to people ask them about their own art, ask them about their experiences like that, like and just have those kind of conversations, because people are actually a lot more open to it than we kind of have this weird fear of like, oh man, don't talk about it, like religious and stuff like that. And like honestly, people, especially at bars, are really open to like talking about that kind of stuff. And so we've just made a ton of friends and met some super cool people like doing that. So yeah, we kind of go and we like, a lot of people won't step foot in a church, fair, but like who says we can't bring like what church we think ought to be like out into the world, like out to people, and be able to like talk and like have those meaningful spiritual conversations. So it's kind of what
it comes back down to, you guys would not have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of views online if your music wasn't good. So it comes back to just, I like to just bring it right back to the music is good. People like it. And I think everyone should check it out, especially if you're into that like post-punk, hardcore-ish 2003 kind of rock sound that was going around. And one of the things I like to think about when I listen to music is just like, how did these people come up with this? And that's, I mean, I'm kind of like I said, I play a lot of punk music and metal, and so like everything I play is like, oh well, he's just destroying the pentatonic blues scale here, like just wrecking it, just speeding through it, or like, you just usually kind of play the same kind of stuff. But this is, I don't know what the right word for it would be. Like it's almost progressive rock of some sort, but it's not like what you and I would know as like prog rock or prog metal,
Sure. We actually, in one like group that I'm on the internets and Train Network and stuff like that, one guy was like, all right, post your shitty bands and I'll roast them. And I posted our band, and his feedback was, oh great, another prog rock band trying to get into Warped Tour. And I was like, I'm not even mad. Like that's actually, for me, that really hits right there. So I was like, I'm okay with that. Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, anybody watching the videos should saw my facial expression. I went, that's actually not a bad thing, like I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind getting on Warped Tour. I mean, it's over with now, but that would have been something super cool.
R.I.P. Warped, yeah.
Yeah. I never once got to one, never once.
Samesies, yeah.
Sad, but life gets in the way. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Pandemics and that stuff, but no, I try like I always try, and when writing songs, I try and push myself as far as like strange choices. And my band, sometimes they hate me for it because I'm a fan of like mixed meters and different time signatures and like weird chord progressions and stuff like that. And if anything catches my ear, I'm going to continue to like dig into that. So I'm always kind of looking for that weird vibe that like actually mixes and walks that balance between like poppy and catchy, and then like, oh, that chord shouldn't be there, but that kind of, so yeah, trying to live in that tension, I guess.
Yeah. There's nothing better than being a musician on stage, playing some stuff, and then having another musician give you that like intrigued look, like, that was kind of cool what you just did there, Like you said, you can do the mixed time signature type thing, but you can also, that can get convoluted in a hurry, mm-hmm. and like we kind of mentioned earlier, that might be one of those things where like the shreddier prog bands, they can get away with some of that stuff because there's so many notes going on. But like when you start to slow things down in the BPMs, it's a little bit more important to try to put the space between the notes where they're supposed to be, when you start mixing time signatures.
Yeah, so I don't know. I like to challenge myself. I mean, I think of even Wait for Spring. I mean, sometimes I geek out too much on musical stuff, and so I'm like, oh, this isn't 5/4, and nobody, like, people don't care. But like Wait for Spring, I wanted to write like more of a pop punky song, but I wanted to do it using a 5/4 meter, and that's, I mean, the chorus is in 5/4, and then I don't know. I'm excited about that, and then our Be Not Burned Up has a whole bunch of time signature changes and stuff like that, and so I think for me, my goal is to do it in a way that's congruent and flows, mm-hmm. instead of being like really choppy and robotic and weird, like trying to take something that's off kilter and making it poppy is what I'd like to do here.
I like that analogy, because I mean, I like prog rock and prog metal. I ended up kind of leaning towards a genre that was like instrumental math rock, is what it, like some
Cool.
people called it. So it's that goofy time signature stuff, and listening to how some people mix it in there, and how sometimes it's so seamless where you're like, oh, whoa, wait, there's 7/8 time right now. What's that all about? Like you don't
Yeah.
realize it until it's almost over, and then you're like, oh, dang, that was kind of weird because they did this thing. And that's something I'm going to have to go back through and listen to some of your stuff and try and dissect some of the beats and see if I can pull some of those out. Because that's kind of fun to listen to other people's music and be like, what is there? They change keys or what's going on here, And you kind of try to dissect what's going on. And, like I said earlier, I'm always intrigued by other people's music when it's something that like my brain wouldn't have thought of, So it's like, that's pretty interesting. This person thought of this stuff. Micah, we've covered an hour here. Believe it or not, this has been a real easy conversation with you. So I got to say thanks for joining me today. We've discussed quite a few things here. New single recently came out. Another one's coming out next month, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep, end of March.
Yep. So check them out. So all the social medias down below for the August Guns. No live shows booked as of yet, but you never know. It's coming though. 2021's here, and it's before you know it, we'll all be out there playing live shows again. So check them out. Everything there is down below in the description section. So Micah, I gotta say thanks. If there's anything else you want to add to this, throw it in there, buddy.
I feel like the responsible band person in me is like, check it all out, but you've already done that. So I don't know. It was fun. It was fun to talk to you. The hour flew by. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. And hi, Mom, if she's ever listening. So. Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, don't go away. We're going to end the interview here, but I'll talk to you just a little bit afterwards here. So thanks, man.
That's good. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, what'd I tell you? He's a good guy. It's really interesting to hear how bands form and how they just, decide to describe their sound or how the sound even comes out. Because, I play music too, but it's also really interesting to me to hear music that wouldn't be something that I would think of out of my head. And I'm a big fan of, the post-rock kind of music that these guys play. It's melodic, but it's still pretty straightforward. It's not quite like punk rock, but it's got this like rock-ish feel. But like I said, it's a big sound for just 3 people to be making. So hats off to everybody in the August Guns. Love the tunes. Hopefully I'll be seeing you guys live sometime in the future. I'm really looking forward to that. Gotta say shout out to Micah for taking some time out of his day to sit and talk to me. Really appreciate it, Micah. Hats off. I also gotta say that let's see here, my last guest and this guest have the same last name, but I don't think they're related, although I did not ask them if they were related. So I guess Cameron, I don't think Cameron and Micah are related, but if they are, that'd be really cool. Maybe I should have spaced them out instead of having 2 people with the same last name right next to each other. I don't think they're related, but maybe check out both of their music and hit them up and see if they are. It'd be cool to actually see Eugene Levy and the August Guns on a show together. That would be pretty sweet. Speaking of the August Guns, all of their links are down below. Check out all the links. You can find them online, anywhere you want to listen to music, and just all the good stuff. So check them out. They're down below. So that's all the links you got to know as far as what's going on. Maybe check out some of their upcoming music, because they're putting out music this year. So that's one of my other favorite things about bands, is if they're not going to be playing, they should be putting out music, and a lot of them are. A lot of bands are working hard to try to do something, making music videos, doing live streams, anything, because, it once again, it comes down to, we talked about it in this episode, there's bands that play live, and there's bands that aren't play live, and some can't play live, and some are choosing not to, and some do play live, and I've played a few live shows, but based on the fact that when you go out there, there's a lot of people out there at some shows, I totally understand why some people are choosing not to play shows. So hats off to everybody for sticking to their guns and doing what they think is right. So I'm never going to judge somebody for choosing to play or not play a show, especially right now. If you're going to play a show, just be as safe as you can. And if you don't think you're going to feel safe out there, then don't play a show. And it's just really great to know that there's people out there that have their heads screwed on straight and really, understand everything that's going on. And Once again, no shaming going on as far as people playing shows or people not playing shows. I'm not gonna pick a side, and I refuse to. So if you're playing music, I appreciate you guys going out playing music. If you're not playing music, I totally understand where everybody's coming from. So the August Guns, I don't believe have any live shows coming up. We talked about a little bit in this episode. They're not really going to be playing too much until everything kind of clears out. So what you got to do is scroll down below, click on all their, give them the like and the follow, and stream all their music. Just check out their music on Spotify. It's got a lot of streams, actually. If you want to check that out for a quote unquote local band, you know, they've got quite a few streams. So hats off to everybody in the August Guns. You guys are working hard and still just rolling in the streams, and everybody's loving it. So I appreciate you guys going out there making new music, and I appreciate Micah for taking time out of his day to sit down and talk to me. Once again, great person. And yeah, speaking of checking out links and everything, if you guys want to scroll all the way to the bottom of the description, there's some Audible Farm links down there. You can watch video versions of the podcast on our Patreon page. It only costs $1 a month, and there's usually 4 episodes a month, so each episode only costs $0.25. Otherwise, the YouTube page is free. Everything on there is free. There's clips, there's video clips, there's the full audio versions of the podcast are there, so you can listen to them there if you would like. They are all there ready to be absorbed by everybody. Once again, the audio versions are free. They're always going to be free. There's no way around that. It's just the way we do it. Podcasts are supposed to be free, so they're free. But if you guys want to go above and beyond and pay an extra $1 a month, $0.25 an episode, then you can watch the video versions on the Patreon. Otherwise, if you want to support the podcast monetarily and don't want to do the Patreon, there is also a shop with some merch and some stickers in there and some other stuff. So check that out as well. Otherwise, everybody that's liked, followed, subscribed, poked, tweeted, Instagrammed, shared, whatever, I really appreciate it. It's every week. People are sharing stuff, new people are liking the page, new people are sharing the page. I do also have to say, I did play a show this last weekend, and when I did, somebody came up to me that I did not know and said they listened to the podcast. I'm fairly certain I have them on my Facebook, but once again, I don't have time to know everybody personally that's on my Facebook. So it's really cool when people come up and tell me they listened to the episode, and they're looking for people and finding people on there that they know, and just warms my heart to know that what I'm doing here is not just falling on deaf ears. So thank you guys very, very much. If you like the podcast, let some people know you like the podcast. Send them links to your favorite episodes. If it's somebody you think they might be interested in something, send that to them. Otherwise, if you found this episode and you're like, I didn't even know this podcast existed, maybe scroll backwards. You might find some people you know in some of the other episodes. And you never know. I've interviewed a lot of different people, and just gotta say thanks. It's been awesome. It's been over 2 years I've been doing this, and I've only missed 1 week ever, and I really appreciate everybody listening. I really do. So make sure you hit the subscribe, like, and all that other stuff, and share the podcast if you like it. Word of mouth works great. And hey, I gotta say I appreciate you guys sitting down and listening to this episode. I gotta give a shout out once again to Micah, and that's the episode for this week. I'm out. Peace.